So, hello everyone and welcome to this Xroad Academy session. My name is Ilkka Seppälä. I work for the NISIS development team, and today we will continue on top of the previous sessions that have been done here in this Xroad. So the first session was setting up the local development environment. So we have configured these LXD containers. I will show you this picture about it here. So we have already made these containers. So at the moment we have demo CS for the central server. We have SS1 and SS2 for the Ubuntu 14 security servers. And we have demo CA for the certificate authority and timestamper. And in the second session, we already did the configuration for demo CS. So the central server has already been configured, but at the moment it's kind of crippled because it doesn't have the management services configured. And that will be the topic of today. So we will configure this demo SS1 so that it will serve the management services for the central server. All right, so if you have any questions during this presentation, please type them to the chat window, and at the end I will go through the questions and try to answer them. Yes, so let's begin. Let's go to my VirtualBox where I have the containers running. Here, let's see, LXC list. So this one shows now that I have the CS container there, couple of security server containers, SS1, SS2, and the test CA at demo CA. And if I open the browser here and check what is the situation here when we begin. So this is the central server. Let's log in and take a look what is going on. It should be at the same state where the last session left. So right. So here we can see the situation is that the PIN code has not been entered at central server. So let's begin with that. So we go to system settings. Global configuration, sorry. So signing keys and login. And the PIN code that we entered in the previous session was 1234. So we will just box here. Right now it takes a while. The central server will start generating the global configuration again, and the red box from the top will disappear. So then the Xroad instance will be working again. Yeah. Here, global configuration is generated once every minute, so it shouldn't take too. Still a bit to wait. Yeah, now it has disappeared and the global configuration has been generated successfully. So let's take a look. The members we have configured in the last session, there is already this demo member that Janne configured here, so we will use the same in this session. We have no security servers here in this list yet. Certification services have been configured. We have the test CA here and timestamping service also, you can see it here. Right, so I think we are ready to move on to start configuring the security server for the management services, and for that purpose we will use this demo SS1 LX. So just the software has been installed, it hasn't been configured anyhow yet, so we will log in here. I have the default username and password, XRD and secret, so let's just log in. The first thing that security server will ask is the configuration anchor. It needs to be downloaded from the central server. So you can get it here from the central server. Go to global configuration and click download here. I will just save it. It goes to downloads folder. Let's see. Yeah, it's in home downloads now. So I can upload that to my security server. This one, click open and import. We'll ask this confirmation, so I will just confirm. Yeah, so now we are in the initial configuration screen. Here you will have to choose the member that will be managing this security server. So we had this demo member already configured here on the central server. I will check that information here. So I will need this member code. So it's 1234 and gov. Yeah. So let's say gov and 1234, and it will autocomplete the member name here. So this security server has now downloaded the global configuration from the central server, and it can look up this information from the global configuration. So that's how it was able to autocomplete this member name. And when you add new security server, you will have to define a security server code. That is a unique code for this security server. Usually it is recommended to use something like URL that is most probably unique, but in this case I will just say this is SS1, because I know that in my instance this is going to be unique. Then software token and PIN code needs to be entered. So I will use the same 1234 here for my security server. So usually, of course, you should password requirements for that. So it should be much longer and it should have characters from multiple different classes like numbers. And in this case, I will just use this simple one. Okay, security server initialized, and the first thing you will see here is the red bar here at the top, please enter soft token PIN, so it will immediately ask for the PIN code. I will just go there and enter it again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the red bar disappears. Yeah, so at this point I can show you this article in the NISIS knowledge base that shows the instructions for this whole process that we are doing. So in the previous session we did this chapter 1, configuration of the central server, and now we are doing this chapter 2 and chapter 3. So install security server, configure security server. Have trouble following this lecture, then you can look up here from this document. Yeah, so first thing now, after the initial configuration, we will set up the timestamping service for this security server. This is a simple thing. You just click add here in system parameters timestamping services, and there is only one configured on the central server, so I will select that one. And then we move on to a little bit more complex things. So this is the hardest part of the lecture. We will have to create these certificate signing requests. They can be generated here in the user interface of the security server. When we have generated those files, then we need to sign them with our certificate authority. So that will give us the certificates that we can use security server. So for background information, the security server always needs two certificates to work properly. So there will be the authentication certificate that authenticates this server, and there will be this signing certificate that authenticates the messages that this security server will. So these ones we will be generating next. So select this soft token, click generate key. You can add some label to your key if you want, but I will not. Generate CSR. Here you can choose if you want to generate this CSR for signing or authenticating. Let's first do the authentication certificate. There is only one certification service, so select that. And for the format, let's use DER because our test CA understands only DER format. Otherwise, we will have to convert it on the use DER here. Click OK. Another dialog opens. So organization name. What was it? Let's check. So demo member is here the member name that we have been using. Let's type that here. We'll ask for the server DNS name. So this means that this security server DNS name. I will copy it here from the address bar. All right, so now it gives me the certificate signing requests. I will just save it here on my disk. It's a long and funny name, but it starts with out, and that's how you can identify that this is the authentication CSR. And now similar process for generating the signing certificate request. No label, please. Generate CSR. So this time signing client service is this test CA and also their format here. And organization name demo member. Save the file. Yeah. Now I have successfully created these certificate signing requests, both for authentication and signing. So the next thing here in this process is to actually sign these requests with our test CA. So our test CA is running in a local LXD container. So the container is this demo CA. So show something here from the instructions. We are already at this 3.4 create signing requests, and then we have already those. So the part where the actual signing is done. Here is a good link for the instructions. So it says when using the test CA as the certification provider, sign the certificate requests according to the instructions. Here. Let's open the instruction. And there are actually at least two ways to sign the CSRs. The first one is here in chapter 7.1. Use the command sign on the file. There is also a second way. Use this sign and sign out on piped data, but you will need to configure SSH server for those. So in this case, I will go with this 7.1, use command sign on the file. So the first step here is to upload the CSR files to the CA server. We can do that with LXC commands. Here in my downloads folder, I have this out CSR and sign CSR, and I will want to put those files to the demo CA container. So let's do that. LXC file push and the file is out and the destination is demo CA. Yeah, now I want to check that it all really went there, so I will open another tab here and go to the container LXC exec CA and bash. So that's how I can open a command line terminal to my container. My directory is already at this root, and yeah, I can see the file here in my container now. So this command was correct. And I also want to push the other certificate signing request. LXC file push sign CSR. Path is the same. Container name and the file folder is the root. But I can see it now. So in the instructions, we can move on to the next part. So the second part here is to register the certificate using command sign. This user needs to have sudo rights. We are already root, so there is no problem. Command is really simple, so you just say sign and then the CSR file name, and certificate will be found in this directory, so home CA new certs, and check that out. Home CA new certs. So this is the target folder where the certificates will be put. There is already 2 certificates here, but we will expect that the next certificate that we will sign, it will be 03.pem. Type the command, so out certificate first, so just sign out CSR like that. We'll ask the confirmation from us. I say yes, commit yes. Okay, certificate has now been created. Let's list the files in the home. So now you can see that this 03.pem has appeared here. So that is our certificate of authenticity. I will copy it here to this folder. So copy and rename at the same time. So I can find home CA 03, and my new name for the file will be outcert.pem. Now I have it here available. Let's do the same for the sign CSR. So sign that one also. Say yes and yes. And list the files. So this is the new certificate 04.pem. I will also copy that. Or signing certificate. Insert. All right. So we have the ready-made certificate here in the root folder. Now the next step is to get these files to the host machine. We can do that via the LXC commands. So this time, instead of LXC file push, we will do LXC file pull. LXC file pull, and the next thing here is the file name on the container. So demo CA root outcert.pem, and and I will just move it here. Similarly, for the signing certificate, outcert.pem and signcert.pem. Yes, I have them here available now. So signing was successful, and now we can import them here to the security server. Let's start by importing the authentication certificate. So the way you do it is select the request and use the import certificate button here on the bottom right. Just the authentication certificate, so that one should be selected. Click OK. Yep, and the authentication certificate will be disabled initially, but we can just activate here. Now let's also import the signing certificate. That one. Okay. And this is good news. OCSP response is immediately good. So the security server was able to fetch the OCSP response for the new certificate. Response was good. So very promising. The next thing here is registering the authentication certificate with the central server. You can do that by selecting the cert and clicking register. It will ask you for the security server DNS name. Yeah, went smoothly. So now it says registration in progress. And what we need to do next is also register the same authentication certificate here on the central server. So server, we have member here. Let's say details. And now we use this tab owned servers. Click that and click add. We are adding a new security server for this member. This dialog will now ask for the server code. We remember that we put SS1 here. Also for the authentication certificate. Luckily we have that here on the host machine. So we just select the outcert. And finally click submit. So request of adding authentication certificate to new security server added successfully. Yeah. So now we have added the certificate for both security server and the central server. The next thing we still need to do is approve the management request. So there are actually two management requests here, one for the security server side and one for the central server side. You can select either one of those and click details and approve. Now it is ready. Now go to Security Servers tab. now see that this SS1 security server has been added. So this page here lists all the security servers that have been registered. So SS1 is now official and working. Very good. Everything gone as planned so far. Let's open the SS1 user interface. Go to this security server clients tab. And here you can see now this yellow ball in front of demo member. It says that registration has not yet completed. It should turn green pretty soon, and when it's green, then this security server is. We have to wait a while because it takes some time for the global configuration to propagate from the central server. So you remember that the central server generates this global configuration once a minute, and the security server fetches the global configuration once a minute. So in practice, it can be up to 2 minutes of delay before the new global configuration has propagated here to the security server. So let's hope we don't have to wait that whole 2 minutes. I'll just okay, we were lucky this time. It has already turned green and this member is now usable. Very good. So the next thing is to add a subsystem for the management services. In the previous session, I think Janne already added this subsystem here to this demo member. Let's see. Select demo member, check the details. Subsystems, yeah, so management is already there. We don't have to do that anymore. So what we could do at this point is actually register this security server for the management service. You can do that here in system settings. The management services part here, and there is the button for registering management services security. Let's click that. Search and choose the only one that will appear here in this list. It is SS1. So we are selecting this security server to act as the management service provider. Click submit. Yeah, that was also successful. Now we can add the management subsystem here to this security client. Select list, search, list. Okay. And okay. So it will ask, do you want to send a client registration request for the added client? I say yes, confirm. At this point it will fail because we have not yet defined the management services. So it's okay to fail at this point. Configuring here. So the management services will need to be added to this subsystem. And the normal way to add services is to first add VSTL, and we can get the VSTL here from the central server. So the central server provides these services and provided through this security. Go to the system settings page and you can find the VSTL address here. We'll just copy that, enter it here into this box, click OK. Initially the VSTL will be disabled, so we have to enable it. Click this plus icon in front of the VSTL and it will show the actual services that were contained in the VSTL. So there are these services for registering new authentication certificates, that is client deleting them, client deletion. Sorry, these were for subsystem registration and deletion. Outside deletion is for that kind of management services there are. The next thing is to configure the actual service address for these services. You see here it says in management service address here. So we need to edit, and you can find the service URL here from the central server also. By default, it will give you this HTTP address in port 4400. Totally okay and working, but if you want to make it a bit more secure, you can replace this HTTP with HTTPS, and then you have to change the port to 4001. So this is a bit more secure and recommended way. And you can configure all the services at the same time by choosing this apply to all in VSTL boxes. And in this case, we don't want to verify the TLS certificate. Next thing is to add access rights to these services. So we need to do that one by one. Select client deletion, click access rights, search, and we want to give rights to security server owners as selected. Same way for the other services, client rec, owners. Go. All right, so now the demo member subsystem management has turned green and is actually usable. We have configured the services, they have the correct address, and we have given access rights to the security server owners. So I think we are at the end now. So the central server and the central infrastructure is at this point working, configured correctly. Yeah, so I think that's all that we wanted to cover in this session. We have used about 40 minutes of time. So the next thing I will do is time for questions. If you have questions and answers. So at the moment, I don't see any questions here, so maybe you don't have anything to ask at this point. That is totally all right. So the questions can also be answered via the documentation. There are very good documents in the NISIS knowledge base. Also the things that we did here today, configuring the management services, are covered by the documentation. You can find it there easily. So hopefully you were able to follow my presentation on how we configure the management services for the central server. It's not too easy to do the first time, but when you do it several times, you will start to remember. Not that bad. You can learn. Yeah. So that's it for today, and the next session I think will be in a couple of weeks. We will talk about REST adapter service. So the session will be about connecting REST services to X-Road via an adapter service that is also an open source project. So I hope you will join also the next session. I will thank you now, and yes, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next session. Bye.